Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. Open the window where I'm doing the journal entry, and what I want to talk to in this video is probably the outside CPA that might be doing your taxes and the builder, to let you know what's happening with CHS, especially if you're on a completed contract method of accounting, which means that you keep all of your job costs over in a work in progress account on your balance sheet, and probably all monies received over under something called construction liability of some sort. All of that's on your balance sheet. And then when you close the job, when it's completed, you will be closing, most especially what our discussion is about, your work in progress account on the NAHB chart of accounts. That's the account number 1430. You will have been posting all of your job costs to that, and when you close the job, and CHS has tools for closing the job, you will be taking the balance in that account over to your cost of sales on your income statement. So for us to, and this is also talking to builders that are applying some wages paid to maybe project managers, etc., or whoever, or laborers. You're paying them their wage. Here's the wage on this screen, and paying them their wage. In this time we did 50 hours at the base wage of $25.25. This is their regular pay. This is the amount of that. But they are paying wages and wanting to charge those to job costs at a written up rate that will cover the cost of that employee, say the employer Social Security taxes, and maybe health insurance, various costs that the builder determines this employee is costing me, so I want that whole cost to go over to job costs. That's most especially because a lot of times they might show their cost reports to home buyers or various people to say that this is the job cost. And they want only one line on their job cost report that's indicating that this is a paycheck or a cost of your superintendent that's on the job cost. So what they'll do is they'll come up with a billing rate, like in this case 15% dropped in for this particular employee. And that dropped in, but you could change it on this one if you wanted to. But it's 15%. So they add 15% to this base rate and come up with this amount. Then they tell the program which cost GL, which they have this default set up for this employee, so it dropped in. And that is a work in progress account that is actually on the balance sheet called direct construction costs. Then this field is what I want to talk about. Is in my very first videos, I talk about setting up something I like to refer to as a contra account that is very close to where you're posting your construction payroll costs. And it would just come in right at the end of all those. So you can see this is salary, superintendents, laborers, construction wages, payroll taxes, construction wages. And you can see down here that all of these expenses, when it matches the employer expense, it says 4110. You can see that this person's wage, base wage, is going to be salary superintendents. But if you look at this chart of accounts, you can see that all of these are together. And what's going to happen is there'll be debits. An accountant will understand that. The exact amounts, like in this case, the amount of the base pay will get posted to 4010, salary superintendent, so that'll be the real amount of his wage. And then when it'll also go, and it needs to make another debit and credit entry. One side will be for this amount that you're writing up. One side would be to your work in progress on your balance sheet, and the other side would be to that what I call contra account, and I end up suggesting that you title it wages burden applied to job costs or something like that. So you'll have a credit of $1451.88 go into this account, and you'll have a debit of $1262.50 go into this account. You'll also, so the difference between those two is the net, would be the net that you're ending up sort of increasing your income statement, except that You will also have $78.27 go into the 4110, so you'll have that debit. You'll also have another debit for Medicare go into the 4110, and any other lines that you did, whether it's health insurance, etc., should all be kept together in this, maybe this little series of GL accounts, so that you can see them right together and you can see this amount subtracted right underneath all of them, because what will happen with that is that goes over to that 1430, and then when you close the job at the end, this 1451 will come back into your income statement in cost of sales as part of the total that you're closing. So it's important actually for a CPA to understand that that's what's happening, and that's why I'm doing this video. So we're going to go ahead and post this entry that I just came up with. And let's close. So now that's been posted, and what I'd like to go talk about now is how some of that has shown up on an income statement, which can puzzle some people. But let's go take a look. Financials. And we just have entries posted for January of 2015, so that's all I'll ask for. This is a demo company, so it doesn't have a big old payroll attached to it. But let's look at income statement with GL numbers. And you're going to, we don't have actually any sales posted because we haven't closed any jobs, etc. So this is actually the cost of sales. And you can see how the result, I did one other paycheck on January 15th, but this shows a minus amount. It's really a debit because you would have positive amounts being your income up here and then minus amounts for your actual costs. So here's your actual costs, here's your actual payroll taxes, but here's a plus amount for the amount that of these that we sent to our work in progress, and this should be clear to you that that's what that is. As that number gets bigger and bigger, it can sort of puzzle you, and that's why I'm doing this. But you can see how right now, yes, this is increasing the income statement by $260.17, but there's a chance you posted other expenses related to those people you were paying wages to that are actually minus amounts, like here's a minus amount. Oh, that's for the admin, but maybe minus amounts for mileage or for various other things that actually probably wash this out. So that's what you need to understand, is this is just accumulating how much you've actually sent over to job costs. And then when you close jobs, the portion for that job is going to end up coming back into something called your cost of sales account that will also would be showing up here above all of this stuff as a minus amount. So it's going to go over there for a while until you close the job, and then it would come back in as an expense when you close the job, not expense, as a cost of sales that would be showing up as a minus also when you do close the job. So if you pull back and you just look at that as a whole picture, I've had some builders say that their CPA wanted to know how much was for each job, but I don't think they need to get, how much in this account was for each job, because I don't think they need to get that technical about it. They just need to understand what this flow is going to be, and that the amount for each job will come back in when you close the job. But if you just really, really have to figure out how much has been put into that, wages burden allocated to job costs, you could go back to your payroll menu, open the payroll database, and let's take a look for a minute at the entries in that in our little contra account. So what I'm going to do is search, and ours was $41.99 wages burden applied to job costs. And let's take a look at that account. I've done two paychecks, one on the 15th and one on the 30th. But what you can see is these negative amounts, these credits going in, that would be going sort of against the debits that went into the regular salaries and this and that. But you can see that those were applied to a job code called H. In other words, they were not applied to a job. I do store which job these were sent to in the 1430 account, but there's an H job here because we don't want a job code here because we don't want it to interfere with job cost reports. We only want the side that went to the 1430 account to have a job code. If I do a search, and let's go ahead and just narrow this down to 2000 to January, and I do a search over here for my 1430 account, which is where I post my job costs, you're going to see there is also one put to mileage reimbursement, but you're going to see what lands on job cost reports, that there's job codes, there's cost codes. This is the other side. These four right here are the other side of those entries that were applied. If you watch my first videos, you'll see that there was also a mileage reimbursement of $100. But if you take a look, let's do a search for just the January 15th for Francis Jones, or his stuff for all the dates. And let's put no selection for our GL number. If you'll take a look, you'll see this happening. Here's one of the 580s. Here's the regular pay. Here's the not the regular pay. Down here is the regular pay, and regular pay 505. That was paid at 25.25 times 20 hours. And then our one that we were just posting should be down here somewhere. Let's take a look at it. You can see payroll to job test 2, 1450. It's gone to that 41.99, our contra account, and right underneath it with a job code. So anyway, if you're trying to analyze this 41.99 and figure out how much is for each job, you can't do it by searching for the job code field, because that's going to be in your 1430 account. So if you're trying to analyze how much is in the 41.99 account for one particular job, notice this styling of the language CHS uses. It says payroll to job test 2. So maybe we're only interested for how much has been included in that account. We can leave the employee if we want for that employee. We'll go back to our excuse me, 41.99. I should have typed instead of scrolling. And then right here, I'm going to put, what was that? Payroll 2. And it said in the watermark there that this will find anything with a partial. So payroll to job test 2. So I want all entries that have this verbiage contained in them. So let's do that. Now you'll notice the only entries I have are ones that have that to test 2 in it. You could try just typing job space in the test 2, maybe you'd get the same thing. So right here, if you do a report, I have designed a special report to try to put something in that determines what the base must have been that went with this. And as you saw, those are two separate entries, so it's pretty hard to tell which was the base. But if you do payroll to job with rate, you have quite a bit of information here saying this should only make sense if you're using this report to look at that contra wages applied to jobs account, which I did. You can see GL number equals 41.99. I just looked for that employee, and I looked for things in this date and a description. So CHS is trying to do its best to help you out to get some report. This is how much was applied to that job, the written up amount at 2904 rate. And here's what all I could figure out to do was to bring in the current billing percent that employee has on their setup screen, because those are two separate entries, and I really can't tell how much it was written up at the time he did it. And then I do a reverse calc to come up with what the base pay would have been based on that billing rate, that current billing rate. But perhaps you used a different billing rate when you made the entry. So the other thing you could do, and I'm talking about that, is you can send this to Excel, and you can do some of your own work, and you might have quite a bit of entries, but you can send this to Excel, and instead of having CHS figure out what the base pay was, You might make another column, and you know that the base pay was 25.25. You might do some formatting of these things. And then you might, because the hours are here, you might do equals the hours and then times this field and hit enter. And that should be probably, notice that the billing rate probably hasn't changed, of course, since we originally did it, but it would show you the amount that would have been the base pay. If for some reason this one isn't working out, you could run down, you could of course copy this down, for that employee and copy that formula down, start copying it down. You want to do some formatting. Let's do a comma for that column right there. Let's go ahead and do a column for this, comma for that column, just in case. You might want to make this column be 8 points also, like this one, and maybe somehow you shorten up all your columns so they're not off whack. It's weird when something's exported to Excel. Here's another thing, the date field. You probably want to click on it, then you want to right click, do format cells, date, and I like this kind of style. And we'll pause for just a minute. Okay, I'm back from the phone call, and I just formatted that column. But anyway, you have to depend on what Microsoft does when it exports things to Excel, and you can take care of doing all of this. I just mostly wanted to show you, I'll close that, how you can do your search if the CPA's question is, how much is in this contra account, $41.99, for this particular job? And then if you're also wanting to figure out what the base pay must have been for that job, you might have to, I've done the best I can to try to give you a first calculation of what that might be, but you might have to send the report to Excel. But for doing this particular report, you really do just want to pay attention to the search. And I'll put a link to this video here before you do it. Says it's only relevant to payroll in 2015 or after, because this database might show things before we switched how we were doing things on the web, and should only be based on a search for the GL account you use to store marked up wages applied to job costs. That's what this report is relating to. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit of what is going on. I really don't think you should need to spend a lot of time trying to search how much was for each job in that contra account that will show up on your income statement. I think if a CPA understands that what that's doing is just a contra, it's really just the difference between it and the things just above it that might increase your income statement right now. But when you close various jobs, your income statement bottom line income will be decreased, because these amounts will be coming back in through cost of sales. It's just the way it works in the complicated world of custom home building that are on completed contract that also want to write up their payroll. We have to make our entries the way we do to handle that write-up that's not the real cost. So hopefully that helps, and thank you for watching.